Now we're going to record some notes on each of the different categories from our energy pyramid. Now our notes are also color-coded. So as we are taking notes on tertiary consumer, we did tertiary consumer in red, so our notes will need to be in red on the tertiary consumer. So you are just going to be writing what I'm writing. Tertiary consumers are always at the top of the food chain. They are the fewest in population, meaning there are fewer tertiary consumers than any other group. All right, and a very important thing about tertiary consumers is that they are only predators, never prey. So they are only predators, in parentheses, never prey. And that part is very important, so we are going to underline it. Now, there are instances where one apex predator might hunt and kill another apex predator, but that is not commonplace. That is a rare situation. So we can safely say that apex predators are never prey. Right? As a rule, apex predators are not prey. They are only predators. All right, let's go to our next group. So we're going to work down. Secondary consumers, we need to have our purple. So secondary consumers are fewer than primary consumers. So there are fewer than primary consumers. But are more than tertiary consumers. But are more than tertiary consumers in population size. So, similar to what we already said, secondary consumers, there are fewer secondary consumers than there are primary consumers, but there are more secondary consumers than there are tertiary consumers. And the key thing about secondary consumers is, like we already said, they are all predator and prey. And we are going to underline that key piece of information. Secondary consumers are all predators to what's below them, and they are all prey to what's above them. And remember, they can also be predator and prey to each other. All right, going down the line, now we're doing primary consumers, so we're back in brown. Primary consumers are all herbivores. primary consumers are all herbivores. We are going to underline that piece of important information. All right, next sentence. They have the highest population of consumers, meaning in all consumers, most of them are primary consumers, right? Out of all of our consumers, 1, 2, these 3 levels, the largest population of consumers are in our primary consumers. And our last bit for primary consumers is they are all prey, and in parentheses, never predator. Never predators. Because remember, these, our primary consumers, are herbivores. So they eat producers. Plants cannot be prey, because to be prey, an organism has to be able to at least try to flee or run or defend itself. Plants cannot do that, so they are not prey. If plants are not prey, then the herbivores, our primary consumers, are not predators. They are herbivores, they eat plants. Everything in the primary consumer box is prey. None of them are predators, they are all prey, because they can get hunted and eaten by secondary consumers, and they can get hunted and eaten by tertiary consumers. So over in our notes, we're going to underline that very important sentence. They are all prey, never predators. All right, moving down, we're into producers, so we'll get our green. Producers are all plants. Producers are all plants. They allow the sun's energy to enter the ecosystem. They allow the sun's energy to enter the ecosystem. We're going to underline that sentence. So producers are all plants. We're going to underline they allow the sun's energy to enter the ecosystem. And last sentence for producers, they have the highest population of organisms. All right, and our last group is decomposers, so we're back to our black. A short note, if you run out of room, then turn the page and continue your notes right here. Now, it's important to note that when we did this, when we put this in our table of contents, we said the energy pyramid, ... 20 to 21. However, if you have to continue your writing onto this page, which would be 22, you need to make sure you change your table of contents to say the energy pyramid, page 20 to 22. Only if you write on page 22. If you don't write on 22, then energy pyramid is from 20 to 21. All right, last thing we're writing in black on decomposers at the bottom of our page. Decomposers are always below because they recycle nutrients from dead things. Decomposers are always below because they recycle nutrients from dead things back into the environment for other producers and consumers to use. Okay, so decomposers are always below because they recycle nutrients from dead things back into the environment for other producers and consumers to use. Last sentence. They restart the energy cycle. And we will underline that final sentence. They restart the energy cycle. Okay? So, and what that means is that they restart the energy cycle, right? Our energy flows up. The sun's energy enters into the producers. The producers use the sun's energy to do photosynthesis, to make glucose, to use the glucose as chemical energy to grow and to reproduce. Now, the energy in producers flows into primary consumers because these are herbivores and they eat the plants below them. The energy from primary consumers flows into the secondary consumers or higher because the secondary consumers will get their chemical energy from the primary consumers or also from the producers or also from each other because these are predator and prey. And then our energy keeps flowing up to the apex predators at the peak. These are our tertiary consumers. They are the fewest in number, but they are the most ferocious. These tertiary consumers get their chemical energy by eating secondary consumers, by eating primary consumers, and if it's an omnivore, it will also get its chemical energy by eating producers. But when this apex predator, this tertiary consumer, dies, and its body starts to decay and decompose, then our energy is going to come all the way down to our decomposer level, right? The decomposers are going to break down this dead this dead animal material. They're going to put the nutrients back into the environment so that new organisms can use those nutrients to grow and reproduce. So a lot of times, the worms and mushrooms and bacteria will break down the dead animal right where it lays so that producers can grow from that highly nutritious ground. If it's something like a maggot will eat a decomposing and decaying animal. That maggot will turn into a fly. Then that fly will go off and be eaten by something else, by another, by one of our other secondary consumers. So anything, a lot of times, these things are eating between themselves. The tertiary consumer typically does not get eaten by something. A lot of times it's possible. Tertiary consumers can certainly be eaten by something, but generally we think of these tertiary consumers as dying, and then their body decomposes, gets broken down by these decomposers, and those nutrients get put back into the environment to restart our energy cycle, right? So our energy enters from the sun into the producers, and then our flow of energy goes up, up, up. When it gets to the top, it circles back down to decomposers, and the decomposers will restart the energy cycle so that it can keep going. All right, that is all your notes for the energy pyramid. Be sure your colors and your pages look as closely as they can to mine. Make sure you underlined this critical information, and make sure you use this information to study for your test.